Hi, Jon Budington here in the shed at RIT with the fabulous Phil Castleberry, our Vice President of Advancement for University Advancement. Phil has been with us how long now?
5 years.
5 years. But 20 years in the business, at least 20 years plus, I guess.
Right, almost 25.
So some here locally, down also in Missouri and at WashU.
Correct. I was at WashU in St. Louis for a long time before Rochester.
Okay, so 20 years in higher ed advancement. What brought you to the higher ed side of advancement and fundraising?
Purely accidental. In fact, when I was 21, I had no idea that people actually graduate college and then give money back. It was a foreign concept to me, but the person who had my job at my alma mater saw something in me, told me about a job she had, and the rest is history.
Right. Well, it's interesting. So no doubts about education since? Like I know you're committed to RIT. I mean, we're friends here, and I'm on the board of trustees here, so I know this a little bit. But you're very good at your job, and it seems like you're committed to this space of higher ed. It's an interesting space.
First person in my family to go to college. Career military father. My parents saw no reason to go to college when the military offered a perfectly good, respectable path. I had other ideas and no money to pay for it. And so it was, I graduated high school in Florida. University of Central Missouri gave me a full scholarship based on my academics, and I think a desire to broaden their student body beyond Western Missouri. And
now you're here.
And now I'm here. And so for me, it was the idea of starting in this profession was a way to give back. And that's what's kept me here, is my social life, my family life, everything came out of my collegiate experience. And without the financial aid to enable me to do that, I wouldn't have had that experience. So in my mind, I am paying that forward.
So first person knowledge of the work that you're doing, from experiencing it as a consumer.
It's life changing. Nothing else can change a young person's life the way 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, in some cases, years on a college campus will.
It's a funny thing, and I was talking with some students today on campus, but the value of my education only grows stronger the further away I am from it, right? You start to recognize that so many places that you are in life have to do with something that happened a long time ago. This brief little period I spent here in Rochester suddenly has impacted, my life later with my own children. It is, I agree with you, it's transformative. Okay, so speaking of that, higher education's got some headwinds. I think, The Economist magazine a couple years ago runs a cover story like, is college worth it? And price has obviously become a bigger concern. We also have all the issues like with the birth rate cliff. But I'm wondering, how has that changed the role of advancement in these universities? Like, you're thinking about that? You're worried about that? You're changing your discussions, donors?
I think the cost is probably our number one headwind. And I don't think colleges and universities are lavish spenders. I think most institutions, certainly every institution I've ever been associated with, are good stewards with the limited resources we have. You'd be hard pressed to find a more educated workforce in any other industry. And we are all stuck to our campuses. In some cases, those campuses are, we're 60 years old here in Henrietta, but some places are 100, 150 years old. And so the costs that go into maintaining that infrastructure are tremendous. And we can't just pick up and go somewhere else where we can get cheaper rent. That's not how the model works. When you have this very educated, expensive workforce, maintenance costs that keep growing,
right,
and the need to invest in facilities like this because it's what the student population demands, what the families demand. Yeah. All of those things are driving the costs up.
So in some ways, though, with advancement, we're deferring some of those costs for some of these families by letting alum and other people that want to invest in that community to kind of, I know we say give back, but in some ways it's really giving forward, right? All the students that are coming out of here, they're going to become our workforce. They're going to become our, the technicians in our hospitals. And so this is actually, in a way, supporting this is really supporting all of our futures.
It is. And it's also protecting for alumni. I think it's an important part of protecting that investment you made 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
It's part of my identity. And honestly, the company that I've built has been built entirely, almost entirely, with alumni from here at RIT.
Right.
Okay, so donors. I've been looking, across the board, philanthropic giving in the country's on a downward trajectory right now. And some people argue that there's a great wealth transfer that's approaching us, where a lot of the baby boomers, who are the majority of the donor community, have kind of shored up their giving, and it's going to be that next generation's torch to take over. What do you see there? Do you see changes in donor behavior? Do you see different arguments needing to be made? How is this going to be different?
Well, one thing I'll clarify is that philanthropy is actually up if you look at the dollars.
Oh.
It's the donors that
The number
are
of
down.
donors, right? It's
Correct.
Fewer people giving
Fewer
more
people
money.
giving more
Right.
money, larger gifts. I think a lot of things have happened. And if you look at, the same is true to philanthropy for higher education, what you see now is more giving at the local level, more social services types of organizations. And a lot of this, I think they've done a better job than higher ed has in their message. The importance of grassroots fundraising, the use of social media, and some of these other crowdfunding tools, of the $10 gifts, and so when institutions, and look, RIT has had this good fortune as well. We 7 years ago now received a $50 million gift from a pretty young alumnus at the time.
We're sitting in the
And we're sitting in something
in the
that
space
he
that
made
his
possible.
gift,
If you're 23 and trying to decide where your extra $25 can go, a local homeless shelter or your alma mater that just got $50 million, you can understand where that dilemma is.
So how do we tell that story? What are the stories that need to be told here at RIT?
I think a lot of it is through collective impact and telling, really drawing the connection from those $25, $50, $100, $1,000 gifts and what that real impact is. And so we're doing that more. We have some rock star deans who do a great job of acknowledging, saying thank you, and then let me tell you the impact that your gift combined with these other 30 gifts made possible for this one student. And that's what we need to find a way to do, is to draw that direct line from your gift to that one student, not your one gift to 16,000 students.
So in your mind, the future is bright, right? The idea that the argument might need to change, and we might start looking at being more sophisticated at those smaller dollars, but there is an opportunity for a gift to an institution like this to have social impact, social good.
There is, and I think we as institutions have an obligation to tell the story and show impact to alumni even after they've left. I've beat this drum for a long time now. The Ivies have this down. They know, a big reason I think students go to an Ivy League institution, the education you're getting there is no better than what you'll get at RIT. I'd argue it's not as good as what you might get at RIT, and the peers that you're around are more diverse and more broad in their life experiences. But what the Ivies offer is this network that you are almost from day one a part of, and you can play that card to get into whatever company you're trying to get into, what relationship you're trying to make. The non-Ivies haven't quite figured out a way to exploit that to our advantage.
You set up the Sentinel Society here, which I think has been universally accepted as very successful. I was actually at an alumni event in Washington, D.C. last month, and I could see people with their Sentinel Society pins. I was wearing mine, but it was just this interesting, it was a connection. And I'm assuming in some ways that's the brand you're trying to build, which is there's a group of people that can help alum, that help support the school, help support people that are graduating out of school, which was a lot what that event was about. Is that kind of where you're headed with this program?
I think with Sentinel, that's certainly that. We needed a way, we have a very low alumni giving percentage. I think most institutions struggle with that, but we are even below that level. So we're starting from a place of 150,000 alumni where 95+% of them have never made a single gift to RIT. And so what is a point of entry that is digestible for them, just to get started, to get into that habit of giving and to be a part of something? So that's where Sentinel originated. But what I'm envisioning is bigger than that. It is, what can you do at 23, 24 when you're just starting your career, you're just trying to survive. You're not ready to join the Sentinel Society at that point, but who better to tell the story to a 17 or an 18-year-old about the RIT experience than somebody who just lived it? And so how do we partner with our colleagues in enrollment to use our young alums to tell the story about RIT and why you should attend? So use our alums that way for the first 5, 6, 7 years, so that then when we are ready to talk about giving, they already feel connected.
And they already in some ways have been giving, right?
And they have been giving.
That giving your time is the ultimate
most of
gift.
us are tuition driven, 60, 70, 80, some 90%. No better way for alums to give back than to help get the next generation of students to choose us.
Excellent. I have to say, we've been here on campus all day interviewing groups of students. Having graduated here, I won't say when, but it was a long time ago, I was struck by the maturity, and the intention of these students to be doing valuable, good things. We always talk about RIT students to be able to come into the workforce and just start, right? They're really ready to go. But it's just an interesting place. There's some very inspiring stories that are happening in this shed right here where we are, but just across the campus, collaborating with each other, very kind, very inclusive. It's a very special place.
We have a unique student body, but kind. It is a very kind student body. You will never see someone walk in a door in front of you and not hold the door for you as you follow behind. We have a farmer's market in the shed, just right outside here, but run by the RIT food share. Food insecurity is something that's plaguing college campuses everywhere. We have such a generous, not just the students, but the entire campus community who support our food share, because we don't want no student should be at college and have food insecurity.
It's an interesting thing. You're actually demonstrating to the students in that community market that I just saw open up outside, the idea of philanthropy, right? This idea of helping your fellow students, helping fellow man, taking care of one another. Exactly. I just served on our presidential search committee for our new president coming to the school. I'm excited that Tuesday, next week, we're going to be announcing that. Everyone on the search committee wanted to know, what does Phil think? And, I know that the role of the president of the university has evolved, but in this day and age where cost is an issue, where we're trying to get the alumni to support the school, how has that role changed in your mind from the perspective of advancement?
I've worked for some presidents who, if you ask the question, what % of your time is spent on fundraising? One in particular I remember will answer 100%. The job of the president has evolved into, in some case, the chief external relations officer, the person that is working with donors, but with government officials, community leaders to tell the story and get folks excited about what we're doing here. It's the best university presidents in my mind surround themselves with really smart, really hardworking people who will handle most of the day-to-day operations of the institution. And I think increasingly you see university presidents are out. Because again, to go back to the shed, this building doesn't happen without external investment. And all of the things that we want to do and want to achieve, that's how we're going to get there.
And I'm going to say, I remember when this building was being proposed, and this is a collaborative shared worker space where different majors, different programs come together to work on projects. I didn't really get it. And actually our president, Dave Munson, really shared that vision. I kind of think of that role as like visionary in chief, but that part of that vision is getting it funded. And I know it's a big responsibility.
It is, and it's getting people excited about the vision and laying that vision out, and then ensuring that everyone is marching in that same direction toward the same common goal. That's great.
So Phil, I'm an alum. Do you have any questions for me? Any thoughts you have? What you're wondering what's on my mind?
You're obviously very involved, very engaged now, recently elected to the Board of Trustees. But I have to assume that we missed a chunk of time from when you graduated until you became superstar involved alumnus Jon Budington. What do you wish we had done differently in those early years out of RIT?
That's a good question. And I think in some ways, when all of us graduate, we want to go off and say, we can do it. This is about us. And you spend a lot of time coming out of school. You've been trying to prove that you're somehow different, but we're all the students. We're all trying to figure it out. You go out into industry, and you, in some ways, make the story about you. And then I think as time goes on, you need help. And I started reaching out to RIT for help, primarily around finding co-ops and internships for people, new talent that would come into the company and teach us new things. But I really didn't understand the story of RIT, the philosophy of RIT, and quite frankly, how it could help me grow as a person. This network of people that have come through these programs, they are our social capital, is the greatest source of capital we have on the planet. I wish I knew that earlier. But I think the second thing is I think the school has gotten much better more recently about having that outreach. The direct development efforts that are happening in the Washington, D.C. area right now through some of the staff that you've brought on board, it's fantastic. And I think it really is building that bond and bringing people back to the school in a way, with maybe not physically, but connecting all of us with our peers, with our friends, with people that maybe went to the school at the same time, but we didn't exactly know. And I think the final thing on that is this idea, and you're right, I think of, I have 5 children, just about finished paying for school, college. The idea that we thought we were paying, that we were giving back through that tuition. But the reality that there's really not a problem in the world that I can't solve with some program or gift that comes into a university like this. And I think that's a power that I didn't know I had. So I wish I had known that earlier, but I have no doubt, Phil, you and your team will fix that.
I had a donor 15 years ago that taught me, very generous 7, even 8-figure level gifts at a prior institution. And when having just a casual conversation one time about motivation and why, it was less an interest in supporting the institution, but more a desire to support a societal cause and problem that he wanted to fix. And he recognized that using the university to fix that was the most efficient and effective way to do it.
We talked about education being transformational, but being more inclusive and allowing more people to participate in this is absolutely transformational. I think in speaking with my gift officer, there was a comment once of like, it's great that you're able to give back. And I look at it as like, I'm not giving back, right? The past is behind us. I'm giving forward, right? I see this opportunity to bring more people into life. And my parents did not go to college. This was new for me. It was absolutely transformative in my life and my family's life. And why wouldn't we want to share this with more people? And if you see some of the challenges, some of that sense of hopelessness, you rarely see that in somebody that's come out of an institution like this. There's always a solution. There's always a path forward. So in a way, giving is the way we can make progress in our communities, in the neighborhood, the country.
Right. Agreed.
So, agreed. I just want to thank you, Phil. It's always good to see you. I'm excited we're having dinner tonight at your club. But it is just, it's been a real honor for me to get to know you, get to know how we can help the university and the people you've brought together and getting me involved more with the Board of Trustees. It's really been life-changing for me, and I can't thank you enough. And for your time today.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Phil. Thanks, Jon.